At my mom's birthday, she raised her glass and said, "I'm proud of all my kids except one." Everyone laughed. I smiled, took out a small white envelope, and dropped it into her champagne glass. She screamed when she saw what was inside. The evening was doomed from the start. I walked into the house around 6:30, snow still clinging to my coat, holding her gift like it was made of porcelain. A silk scarf from Italy wrapped with care. The whole place smelled like vanilla and roasted meat. Somewhere in the background, Christmas music was playing, cheerful, hollow, and completely out of place. Coats hung on the rack near the door, fur cashmere designer labels that whispered expensive. Mine looked like a thrift store find in comparison. The guests were already gathered in the living room. My mom, Carol, sat right in the center of the couch in a bright red dress, her earrings glittering like she'd been crowned queen of the evening. My dad, George, sat beside her, quiet and polite, his default setting at events like this. My older sister, Emma, was admiring her perfect manicure and laughing with Aunt Leslie. My younger brother, Lucas, was deep in a loud debate about luxury cars with a few cousins. When I stepped in, Emma gave me a quick glance, cold, uninterested. "Oh, you came," she said, like I was a pizza delivery no one remembered ordering. I forced a smile. "Of course," I replied. "Wouldn't miss it." Mom didn't even bother standing up, just waved her hand. "Put the gift over there and find somewhere to sit. Dinner's almost ready." I hung up my coat and placed the small gift box with the others, most of them massive, glossy, branded shopping bags that looked like they belonged in a window display. Everything looked festive, but it felt empty, and not the kind of empty that catches you off guard, the kind you get used to. While the servers passed around champagne, I stepped to the far end of the long table. No one offered me a closer seat. That's when I saw it. Above the fireplace where the old family portrait used to hang were two large framed photos matching expensive frames, hung with care. In one, Emma stood in front of the Eiffel Tower, dressed in an all-white designer outfit, striking a pose that screamed magazine shoot. In the other, Lucas stood proudly in a sleek modern office holding a plaque that read, "Startup of the Year." There was no photo of me. There used to be an old graduation picture back when I still tried to smile. No, just empty space like I'd been quietly erased. I looked away, took a glass of champagne, and didn't say a word. Dinner was served. The food was extravagant. Duck with orange glaze, truffle mashed potatoes, tiny sculpted salads, and glass bowls. It all looked beautiful, smelled like money, and tasted like nothing. The conversations revolved around the usual things, other people's success. Emma bragged about her new collection in Paris. Lucas talked about opening his first coffee shop. Aunt Leslie, bless her, went full fan club. "You have such a talented family, Carol." Mom beamed like she'd raised royalty. Not a single person asked me a thing. Even Dad, who normally tries to play neutral, just nodded at me when I sat down, then forgot I existed. At one point, I mentioned quietly that I just moved into a new apartment. Mom didn't even pretend to care. "Emma, did you tell them about Paris?" she said, cutting me off and passing her another glass of champagne. I looked down at my plate and focused on my fork. In this house, I've always been background noise furniture, a glitch in their perfect design. By the time the toast started, I already knew how the night would end. Dad half-hearted to family health, Aunt Leslie to our children's success, Lucas half-joking to the burden of being a genius. Cue laughter. And then Mom stood up. The room quieted. Glasses clinked. She adjusted the silk scarf on her shoulder and looked around with pride. "I'm proud of my children," she said loud, clear. "Proud of Emma, our shining star. Proud of Lucas, so bright and kind." She paused for effect. I held my breath. Then she smiled. "I'm proud of all my children except one." Laughter rippled through the room, nervous, forced a few stifled chuckles. Dad smiled into his plate. Emma covered her mouth like she was embarrassed. She wasn't. Lucas raised his glass toward me, smirking. I didn't cry, didn't hunch or shrink, but something inside me finally quietly clicked shut like a door that had been waiting years to close. I stood, picked up my purse, and took out the envelope, walked over to Mom. Her glass was already on the table. She wasn't even looking. I lifted it gently and slid the envelope into the bottom of the flute, a neat little rectangle visible through the glass. Inside was a short note and a link to a shared drive. "What's this?" She frowned. I didn't answer, just gave a small smile and walked toward the door. "Nora!" Aunt Leslie called after me. "Where are you going?" I didn't respond, just grabbed my coat and left. Outside, the sky was already dark. The snow fell in soft, lazy flakes, glittering under the street lamp like scattered diamonds. I took a deep breath of cold air, and for the first time in a long time, I felt it. I'm not losing a family. They already lost me. I shut the heavy front door behind me and stepped into the cold hallway. Then I stopped. The silence inside the house was so sharp, it felt like it rang in my ears. That kind of silence where your body instinctively holds its breath, like the world is bracing for something. I took one step, then another. Each footfall echoed a little too loudly in my chest. And then from somewhere deep in the living room came my mother's scream. Not angry, panicked, high-pitched. I froze. And in that instant, I knew. They opened the envelope. They saw everything. I didn't turn around, didn't run back to explain. I just kept walking, toward my car, parked at the edge of the long driveway. The air stung my skin. The snow crunched softly beneath my boots, but inside I felt calm. Cold, steady, calm. I got in, shut the door, turned the key. The engine rumbled to life. Headlights cut through the snow-like blades. And just as I pulled onto the empty street, my phone buzzed on the passenger seat. Her name lit up the screen with that soft, familiar glow. I glanced at it for half a second, then turned the phone face down. 3 seconds later, buzz again. It. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Buzz Lucas. Then came the text from Emma. "You need to explain. How could you do this to us?" No expression on my face. Just silence. I flicked the phone to silent, let the vibrations fade into nothing, and kept driving forward through the snowstorm, through the night. Through every guilt trip they'd ever fed me. The pressure to stay quiet. To be the peacemaker. To forgive without reason. Because now I understood what they really wanted wasn't peace. It was silence. And I wasn't giving them that anymore. I started thinking about how it all began. From the start, I was the extra, the placeholder between the golden children. Emma, the oldest, family pride and joy, a star. Lucas, the youngest, bright, charming, endlessly adored. And me, the space between them, the backdrop. Mom used to say, "You're so independent, so easy." Easy meant invisible. When I won awards, I got a silent nod. When I moved into my first apartment, a smiley face in the family group chat. That's it. When I asked for help, you're strong. You'll manage. So I managed, worked, paid rent, covered bills I couldn't afford, sent money to help them out even when I was barely scraping by. Quietly, hoping naively that maybe one day they'd see me, that it would matter. But the truth was different. When Emma had an art show, they bought her gowns that cost more than my rent. When Lucas dropped out of yet another program, Mom took him out for mental health lunches at 5-star restaurants. Me, when I asked for a small loan to get a root canal. Dad sighed and said, "Times are tough. We just can't afford that right now." Meanwhile, they were shopping for Emma's new car. It might have stayed buried if not for one slip. A passing comment from Mrs. Burton. "Such a shame they sold that house near the park. Your grandfather was so proud he left it to you." That stopped me cold. What house left to me? I didn't believe it at first, so I dug. property records, tax filings, old estate paperwork, city archives, and there was a will clearly naming me as the heir to the house. Forged authorizations signed behind my back, bank records showing years of rental income going straight to my parents' accounts, thousands and thousands of dollars while I rationed groceries and worried about rent. I sat with it for a long time. Do I tell them, walk away quietly, take them to court? But the decision came the night Mom lifted her glass and said, "I'm proud of all my kids except one," and everyone laughed. Emma smirked. Lucas raised his glass at me like it was some kind of inside joke. That's when I knew there would be no apology, no admission, no closure. Just them and their story where I was the problem. And now, driving through the dark, phone buzzing in the seat beside me, I knew one thing for sure. I did the right thing, safe, and I would never let them choose for me again. I woke up the next morning to silence. The phone had finally stopped buzzing. When I opened my eyes, the screen was lit up like a Christmas tree. 53 missed calls, 27 texts, 11 voice messages. Dad, Emma, Lucas, even Aunt Karen, who I hadn't heard from in 10 years, suddenly remembered I existed. I scrolled through the messages with one finger. Some were desperate. "Sweetheart, we can fix this. We're family." Some were threatening. "If you go public with this, you'll destroy all of us." And a few were just plain nasty. Typical. "You've always been ungrateful." I set the phone down. Didn't answer a single one. By lunchtime, another message came in. This time, an email from my father. Short, pulled, be reasonable. You don't want a war. No one wins. Signed, family is everything. His go-to phrase whenever he wanted to sweep something under the rug. Later that evening, another message from Mom. "I'm sorry if we hurt you, but since you've clearly found out, maybe we should talk. We're open to discussing compensation." Compensation? Not we want to make things right. Not we betrayed you and we're sorry. Just compensation like I was some disgruntled vendor and not their daughter. I closed the email, turned off my phone. 2 days later, the rumors started. First, a college friend reached out. "Your mom told people you turned down the inheritance because you were focused on your career." Then, a neighbor sent me a screenshot from Emma's Facebook. Sometimes jealousy ruins even the strongest bonds. It's sad to see how greed changes people. And that's when I realized they'd launched a full-blown campaign. The goal was simple: discredit me, so that if the truth ever came out, people would already be doubting my side. It was textbook. First, silence me, then ruin my reputation, then play the victims. So, I spent the entire next day in a lawyer's office. Her name was Miss Bennett. Sharp, no nonsense, mid-40s with eyes that didn't miss a thing. When I laid everything out, the will, the documents, the tax records, she didn't flinch, just nodded. "You have a rock-solid case. The house is legally yours. They've been collecting income they had no right to." I hesitated. "What about the lies, the posts, the gossip?" She frowned. "Unless they cause you measurable harm, like loss of income, it's hard to prove defamation. But if they keep it up, we can build a case. You'd be surprised what counts once there's a pattern." I nodded. Her confidence was exactly what I needed. So what do I do now? First, document everything. Screenshots, messages, emails, every single piece. Second, keep everything formal. Third, no more private communication. All contact goes through me. On the drive home, one thing became clear. They weren't going to stop. To them, the truth was dangerous, and I was the traitor who'd chosen herself over their script. But I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't the old Nora who quietly cleared dishes while everyone toasted Emma. I knew exactly what their family values were worth, and I knew what I was worth now too. That night, I opened my laptop, wrote a new email, attached the scanned copy of the will, attached all relevant documents confirming my legal ownership, and sent it to Mom, Dad, Emma, and Lucas. Subject line, formal notice of property ownership, all further communication through legal counsel. No emojis, no explanations, no begging, just facts. They wanted a war. But they forgot one thing. I'm not their background character anymore. The letter Miss Bennet sent on my behalf was about as warm as a blizzard. 2 pages, 0 pleasantries, and each sentence landed like a warning shot. Laid everything out. The house legally belonged to me, and my parents had collected rent on it for years while forging my signature behind my back. They had 5 business days to respond, or we'd file a civil suit for restitution and damages and forward evidence of fraud to the district attorney. It should have felt like a victory, but it was far from over. This was just the opening move. I spent the next 3 days waiting for the sky to fall. The first nothing, just silence. No angry texts, no late-night calls, not even a passive-aggressive meme from Emma, which frankly was suspicious. Then it started, not with a bang, but with a seal. A sleek white envelope slid through my mail slot. No return address, just my name in perfect printed serif. Inside, a revised agreement from a law firm I'd never heard of. The header made me squint. Whitmore Law. The letter was condescendingly cordial. I was encouraged to resolve this unfortunate conflict privately and avoid unnecessary emotional distress by signing a mutual agreement. It sounded reasonable if you didn't actually read it. The fine print. I'd be surrendering all claims to the property, forfeiting any right to sue, and agreeing never to discuss it publicly. In exchange, a payout that wouldn't even cover 2 years of rent in this city. Oh, and I'd have to sign a lifetime non-disclosure agreement. Classic corporate strategy. Pay the problem to shut up. I didn't even bother forwarding it to Miss Bennet. Just tossed it onto the kitchen counter and laughed. Dry, tired, bitter. The next day, another envelope. Same white paper, same we can resolve this like adults tone. Different terms, slightly higher payout, and a new clause. I'd also have to sign a statement retracting any prior defamatory implications regarding the Hale family's financial conduct in plain English. They wanted me to say I lied. I started keeping the envelopes in a drawer. I didn't read most of them. I just watched the pile grow, and then I noticed the car. It showed up on Thursday. Look, tinted windows parked across the street and facing my apartment. Could have been anyone. A neighbor, a delivery guy, a random car, but it was there again on Friday and Saturday. Same model, same spot, lights off, engine silent. I started checking the locks twice, then 3 times. And just when I was starting to think maybe I was imagining things, maybe the stress was getting to me, there was a knock at the door. It was 9:47 p.m. I checked the peephole. 2 men, suits, one holding a clipboard, the other just standing there, hands in his coat pockets. I didn't open the door. "Miss Hale," one of them called out. "We just need a quick signature on something for clarification." Clarification? Sure. "I'm not signing anything," I said through the door. Of course. He chuckled like we were old friends. "No pressure, just easier if we handle this quickly." I said nothing. After a moment, footsteps retreated. When I opened the door, a crack a few minutes later, they were gone. But a folder had been slid onto my welcome mat. Inside, in thick black letters, "This can end now if you sign." That night, I called Miss Bennet. My voice shook for the first time since this started. She didn't panic. She just said, "Pack a bag. Go stay with someone. Do not go home tonight." I grabbed my essentials, laptop, documents, the envelope pile, and booked it to Christina's. Her apartment was barely bigger than my old dorm room. The couch had a sinkhole in the middle, and her dog immediately took over my blanket. It was the safest I'd felt in weeks. I broke down for a full minute. No words, just that silent, gut-deep kind of crying that doesn't need sound to hurt. They're acting like I'm dangerous. I finally said, voice barely above a whisper. Like I'm a threat. Christina didn't miss a beat. No, they're acting like you have power. That's new for them. She made tea. I couldn't drink it, but I held the mug just to feel something warm. 2 days later, while I was still camped on her couch, Miss Bennet called with a different tone. Tighter, sharper. I found something, she said. Turns out, Cal Whitmore. Yes, that Cal had advised my family from the very beginning to suppress the will. Worse, one of his junior associates had leaked a threat of internal emails that proved he knew the POA forms were forged. Cal didn't just take on the case. He orchestrated the whole campaign. Miss Bennet filed a complaint with the state bar before lunch. By dinner, we'd forwarded the new documents to the district attorney's office, and just like that, the air changed. Suddenly, the silence wasn't mine. It was theirs. No more letters, no more cars. Nora Hale had stopped playing defense. We didn't announce anything publicly, no posts, no leaks, no threats. We just prepared for trial, and that's when they made one last attempt to buy me off. Another envelope, this one delivered by courier. Inside, a 6-figure offer, a pre-written apology, and a full release clause. All I had to do was sign and pretend none of it ever happened. I stared at the paper for a long time, thought about the years I spent scraping by while they collected rent off a property I didn't know I still owned. I thought about every holiday dinner where my chair was optional, every text left on read, every time I got "we can't help right now" while Lucas got another gift-wrapped safety net. Then I thought about the knock at my door, the folder, and I set the offer on fire. Literally, Christina's sink had scorch marks for a week. Worth it. The next morning, the DA's office called. We're moving forward with criminal charges, the woman said. Forgery, fraud, possibly identity theft. We'll need you to confirm some signatures in court. I said, yes, I didn't even flinch. They say courtrooms are where the truth comes out. That's generous. Courtrooms are where truth shows up wearing a blazer, sits stiff in a chair, and hopes someone believes her before she runs out of time. The day of the trial, I wore navy. Not black, too grim, not gray, too apologetic. Navy said, I'm not here to mourn. I'm here to be heard. Cal Whitmore was already at the plaintiff's table when I walked in. Expensive haircut, gold watch, perfectly folded pocket square like he was auditioning for a legal drama where no one ever loses. He didn't look at me. Mom did just briefly. She was sitting beside Dad, who looked like he hadn't slept in a week. Emma wasn't there. Lucas was? His expression said, I didn't sign up for this, which was funny considering he actually had signed things illegally. I sat beside Miss Bennet, who passed me a folder and whispered, Stay calm. Let the evidence speak first. She had a highlighter behind one ear and a gleam in her eye that made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone in this. The opening statements were polite knives. Cal stood and painted me as a once estranged family member suddenly interested in her late grandfather's estate. A woman possibly confused by grief and motivated by spite. I didn't flinch. I just thought he's good. Not truthful. The good. Then Miss Bennet stood. She didn't raise her voice, didn't pace. She just let the facts land one by one. The will clearly naming me as the sole heir to the property. The forged power of attorney documents. Years of rent flowing into accounts I didn't know existed. The sudden smear campaign once I questioned it. She ended with, This isn't about family tension. It's about theft. And sat down. Testimonies followed. The handwriting expert explained how my signature had been digitally copied and pasted onto rental agreements. Then came the surprise. Mrs. Burton. Yes, that Mrs. Burton, the chatty neighbor whose slip-up started this whole thing. She testified that my grandfather had often talked about the house being for Nora, not for the kids, not for the family, for me. She even brought a Christmas card from him addressed to me with the line, "Hope this house brings you peace one day." Cal tried to shake her. "Isn't it possible you misunderstood?" Mrs. Burton smiled. "I misunderstood a lot of things at my age, sir. That wasn't one of them." There was a beat of silence. Even the stenographer looked impressed. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it simple. I told them I hadn't known the house was still in my name, that I'd spent years believing it had been sold, that I'd worked, struggled, and stayed quiet until I couldn't anymore. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just told the truth like it was math. The judge took a recess, and when he came back, he looked tired, but resolute. "The court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Nora Hale. Full ownership of the property is restored to her. The defendants are ordered to repay all rental income collected over the past 3 years with interest. Attorney fees to be paid by the defendants." I didn't smile. Not yet. I just let it wash over me like a storm finally breaking after years of waiting for thunder. Cal asked to speak privately. Denied. Dad muttered something. I didn't hear it. Lucas looked at the floor like it owed him something, but Miss Bennett turned to me and said quietly, "This isn't over, but it's yours now." 2 weeks later, the DA filed criminal charges. Dad, forgery, real estate fraud, and identity theft. Emma wasn't charged, but a formal defamation complaint was accepted. And Cal Whitmore, turns out encouraging clients to suppress a valid will and falsified PA documents isn't great for your license. His name popped up in a bar ethics review. His firm dropped my parents 2 days later. That part wasn't public, but word got around. Emma's sponsorships started evaporating quietly, politely, like people stepping away from a fire before it spreads. Mom lost her part-time job when a local blog picked up the story. Apparently, customers didn't love being helped by a woman accused of defrauding her daughter. Dad took some sort of warehouse job out of town. Lucas tried to go back to school, but no one's paying his tuition this time. Me. I moved into the house, not with fanfare, just with a key that finally belonged to me. The mailbox now reads, Nora Hale. One evening, I hung a photo on the hallway wall. It's not dramatic, just a candid someone took years ago. Me mid-laugh, blurry around the edges. It's not perfect, but it's mine. Michael helped hang it. He didn't ask about the court. He just made sure it was straight. He kissed my shoulder and said, "Want help with the garden next weekend? There's a ring in his pocket." I know it. He knows. I know it. We're not rushing. Christina visits often. She brings pie that always burns a little. Sam drinks juice from a cereal bowl because he forgets glasses exist. Laura brings her dog who's somehow gotten bolder about stealing food. It's chaotic, loud, beautiful. It's family, the kind that doesn't ask you to shrink. Sometimes people ask if I regret not settling, not just taking the money and walking away, and I always say no because the truth wasn't for them. It was for me. They lost their daughter long before the courtroom. I just made it official. So what do you think? Did I do the right thing? Was I justified in taking it to court, or should I have just let it go for the sake of family? I'm still figuring out how to feel about all of it. But one thing I know for sure, silence protects the wrong people. You made it this far. Thank you. Seriously. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to hit subscribe. At my niece's party, my parents and sister held down my 11-year-old daughter and chopped her hair off, so she wouldn't outshine her cousin. My mom said, "Don't make a scene." I didn't. I did this. The next day, they were crying at the police station. I didn't see the scissors. I didn't see the look on her face when it happened. I didn't see them laughing or holding her down or brushing her tears away like they meant nothing. But I saw what they left behind, and I swear that was enough. I'll never forget how she looked walking out of that house. It was my niece's 12th birthday. I had to work, Saturday hospital shift, the glamorous life. So my daughter Grace, who's 11, went ahead of me. It was supposed to be harmless. A cousin's party, family. You know, the people you trust, until they show you why you shouldn't. That morning, Grace was glowing. She'd been planning this for weeks. Her hair, her pride, had been washed, detangled, wrapped in a silk bonnet, and rewrapped before bed. She begged me to take her to a real salon, not the strip mall place with the fluorescent lighting and panic haircuts. A real one. I want to feel pretty, just this once. So I picked up 2 night shifts, canceled my massage, and handed over $120. She chose the look herself, soft curls, half up, pearl pins tucked into a side braid. "Do you think Bella will like it?" she asked, fussing with a pin. Bella's my niece, Sabrina's daughter. "She'll love it," I told her. "You look beautiful." She smiled. She'd even handmade a gift, wrapped it in glitter tape. I dropped her off, kissed her goodbye, and went back to work, thinking she was safe. Foolish, I know. When I pulled into the driveway that evening, something twisted in my gut. Not nerves, not paranoia, just off. The kind of off you only recognize in hindsight. And then the front door opened. Grace stepped out. And I swear to God, for a second, I didn't recognize her. Her hair, her long, perfect, styled hair, was gone. Not trimmed, not cut, hacked. It was short, uneven, jagged. Some pieces hit her chin, others barely grazed her ears. It looked like someone handed a raccoon a pair of gardening shears and let it freestyle. She looked down when she walked toward me, shoulders tight, breathing shallow. "Grace?" I asked, climbing out of the car. What happened?" She tried to smile, tried to be brave. "That's the part that killed me. They cut it," she whispered. And then she burst into tears. My chest cracked open. "They cut it?" I repeated, too stunned to process anything else. She nodded. Her voice was small. "Grandma, and Auntie Sabrina." I wanted to turn to stone, shatter into pieces. I wanted to run inside that house and start flipping tables like I was in a biblical meltdown, but Grace was sobbing. So I knelt down and held her, and she buried her face in my neck and just cried. "Can we go home?" she asked. "We're not going home yet," I said. My voice sounded calm. That scared me more than anything. We walked back toward the house. I kept my hand on her shoulder. I half hoped someone would try to stop me. No one did. Inside, Sabrina was clearing paper plates like she hadn't just destroyed a little girl's trust in humanity. My mother was wiping counters, chatting about leftover cake. The air smelled like frosting and betrayal. I stood in the doorway and said, "What happened to my daughter's hair?" Sabrina didn't even flinch. "We asked her to put it in a ponytail. She refused. So we cut it." I blinked. "You cut it?" "She was being difficult," my mother chimed in. "We gave her a choice." "A choice," I repeated. "So, let me get this straight. You told an 11-year-old to do something she didn't want to do, and when she refused, you punished her by cutting her hair off?" "It's just hair," Sabrina said. No, it wasn't. They kept going. "Bella was crying," Sabrina snapped. "She saw Grace's hair and started crying. You think that's fair? You parade your daughter around with that fancy salon hair?" "Fancy salon hair," I echoed, because now I was in a surrealist nightmare. "You know we can't afford that," my mother added. "What were you trying to do? Make Bella feel bad? Embarrass us?" "She was showing off," Sabrina said. "You made my daughter feel ugly on her birthday." I stared at them. These people, my own family, talking like Grace was some rival at a high school prom, not a child with a kind heart who just wanted to give a handmade gift to her cousin. I couldn't feel my hands anymore. My voice was even. I'm taking her home. I didn't wait for a response. Grace was still outside. I took her hand, and we walked back to the car together. She kept wiping her face. I didn't say much. Halfway home, she whispered, "Do you think it can be fixed?" My throat tightened. "We'll make it beautiful again," I said. "I promise." She believed me. That's the worst part. She still believed the world could be made right. I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I didn't even cry. Not then. I didn't know it yet. But very soon, they would be crying at the police station. People like to talk about first signs, red flags, gut instincts, those little moments when the curtain lifts and you glimpse the truth underneath. I wish I could tell you there was one of those moments in my childhood. A line that was crossed. A slap. A scream. A locked door. Something dramatic. Something cinematic. But no. It was subtler than that. It was soft. It was constant. It was poison disguised as tradition. You don't grow up knowing you're the second-choice daughter. Not immediately. It's more like a slow leak. Something drips and drips and drips. And you don't even realize the ceiling is sagging until the whole thing collapses on your head. My sister Sabrina is 2 years older than me, and for the first 15 years of my life, I didn't question why she always got the nice things, the prettier dresses, the shiny flats, the lip gloss, the compliments. Let your sister wear it. She's older. You don't need mascara yet. You're still a little girl. That top is too mature for you. You don't want people looking at you that way. Never mind that Sabrina and I were practically the same height by 12, or that we went to the same middle school and were mistaken for twins on the regular, or that I never asked for much, just not to be dressed like someone's lost camp counselor every time we went out in public. But it wasn't just the clothes. It was how my parents looked at her, and how they looked through me. I didn't think I was pretty, not back then. I liked video games and books with dragons and messy ponytails that started falling apart the second I left the house. I wasn't trying to be anything, but apparently, not trying was the problem. See, there's nothing more threatening to a girl raised to compete for attention than someone who gets it without even asking. Sabrina never said it out loud, not directly, but I saw it in her face. Every time a boy looked at me instead of her, every time someone mistook me for the older sister, every time I made someone laugh without trying, and then she'd do what she always did, flip the story and make me feel like I had done something wrong. I remember once, I was 14, she was 16, we were getting ready for a family friend's wedding. She stormed into my room in full mascara meltdown mode. "Why are you wearing that dress?" I blinked. "It's the only one that fits me." "Did you do something to your hair?" "No. I washed it." She looked like I'd just committed a felony with Pantene. "You know Brandon's going to be there." Brandon, the boy she had a crush on for 4 years, who liked football and math, and apparently me, except I didn't like him. I just talked to him once about a book we both liked. "Don't you dare flirt with him." "I'm not." "What?" She slammed the door. Later that night, my mom pulled me aside. "Couldn't you have worn something less flashy? Your sister was really upset." The dress was gray. Gray. Over the years, things escalated. Quietly. In ways that didn't leave marks. Sabrina would accidentally hide my makeup bag, or forget to tell me the dress code changed for an event. One time, she swapped out my conditioner for shampoo. My hair looked like I styled it with static electricity for a week. But what cut deeper than all of that was how my parents kept backing her. No matter how petty, no matter how obvious. They saw me as the problem. I was difficult. Too proud. Too sensitive. Too much. Fast forward 10 years, and I thought I'd outgrown it. I thought success would solve the imbalance. I worked my way through med school, residency, Long hours, no sleep, no one cutting me slack. I bought my own house, married a man who treated me with respect. Radical, I know. I gave my daughter Grace everything I'd never been allowed to have. And I hoped, that maybe that would be enough. Maybe they'd finally see me as my own person. Maybe they'd treat Grace differently. But they didn't. They couldn't. I started to notice it during visits. Grace would come to family dinners in a cute outfit she picked herself, and my mother would purse her lips. "Don't you think that skirt's a bit much for a little girl?" "She's 11, I'd say. Sabrina would make passive-aggressive comments in front of Bella. "Wow, Grace, that's a lot of hair for someone your age. Do you always wear makeup, even to school?" Grace wasn't wearing makeup. She had clear lip gloss and glitter clips, but the tone was always the same. Don't stand out. Don't shine. Don't make Bella look dull by comparison. And Bella, poor thing, absorbed all of it. She mimicked her mother's jealousy like it was gospel. Once, after a family barbecue, I caught her in the hallway with Grace. I didn't hear everything, just the tail end. "You think you're so special just because your mom lets you go to the salon?" Grace didn't tell me what was said, but she looked small, smaller than usual. The thing is, I didn't realize how deep it ran. I didn't realize that the same silent rules applied, the same games, the same threats hidden in smiles, until the birthday, until I saw Grace walk out of that house with her hair hacked off, until I heard the words leave her mouth. They cut it. That was when it all clicked. It wasn't about disobedience or discipline or some childish misunderstanding. It was punishment for being beautiful, for shining, for standing out when she was supposed to stay quiet. They saw in Grace the thing they'd hated in me, and they came for her. I thought I had escaped it, that the worst of it was behind me, but I didn't realize I had just walked her, my daughter, straight into the same trap I grew up in. She said it while I was pouring tea. They held me down, just like that. No build-up, no tears, just those 4 words, flat and quiet, like she was telling me the weather report. Grace sat at the kitchen table in her hoodie, legs tucked up under her, staring at nothing. I stopped mid-pour. "What?" "They held me down," she repeated. "I told them no." Aunt Sabrina pushed me into the chair, and Grandma said, "It's just hair. Stop making a scene." And then they cut it. I didn't speak. I was too busy clenching the teapot like I could squeeze justice out of it. "They were laughing," she added. Grandpa said I needed to be humbled. Bella was filming me. So was Connor. He said he was going to send it to the group chat. She blinked. "I don't even know what group chat." I sat down, slowly, because if I didn't sit, I was going to break something. "They filmed it?" She nodded. Connor had his tablet. He was holding it up the whole time. I think he thought it was funny. Of course he did. "And no one stopped them?" Grandpa was eating cake. Bella told them to get the front too. I stared at her. She looked so small in that chair, smaller than she'd ever looked in her life. And that was the moment everything inside me turned cold. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was ready. "Grace," I said, "what they did to you wasn't just wrong. It was illegal." She looked up. "Really?" "Yeah. It's called assault. They touched your body without permission. They restrained you. They cut your hair, your identity, your autonomy, while you were crying. That's not just hair. That's a crime." She looked down again. "I felt like it." "Well, that's because you were right." I paused. "Do you want to report it?" She blinked. "To the police?" "Yes. If you say no, we won't. But if you say yes, I'll take you today." She didn't answer right away. She picked at a loose thread on her sleeve. Then, Yeah, let's do it. I told her we'd need proof. Grace tilted her head like I'd forgotten something obvious. Connor filmed the whole thing. I raised an eyebrow. You sure? He was standing right in front of me. It was like a YouTube vlog. I handed her my phone. You want to ask him? She didn't even hesitate. She pulled up his name, typed, Hey Connor, I know you filmed it. Can you send me the video? 30 seconds later, he responded, LOL. Okay, just like that. No shame, no suspicion. Just a laughing emoji and a video file. We watched it together. It wasn't long, maybe 12 seconds, but that's all it took. There was Grace crying, saying, No, please, no, while Sabrina grabbed a fistful of her hair. My mother stood behind them, arms folded like she was watching someone fold laundry. My father sat on the couch with a plastic fork in his hand and said, She'll thank you later. Connor was laughing. Bella shouted, Do the front next! Grace didn't say a word as she watched. Her face was blank. When the video ended, she looked at me. Can we go now? We went straight to the station. No stalling, no dramatic montage. I didn't even change my clothes. Grace was still in her hoodie. I was still wearing yesterday's makeup. None of it mattered. They assigned us to a detective named Alvarez, mid-40s, practical haircut, kind eyes that didn't blink when we told her what happened. Grace handed over the video like a professional. Alvarez plugged in headphones and watched it. Twice. She said very little. But the way her expression changed, tightening, then sharpening, then flattening into quiet disgust, told me everything I needed to know. We're opening a formal case, she said. You did the right thing coming in. Grace stayed composed the whole time. She answered questions. She asked a few of her own. When Alvarez mentioned that a child advocate would be present for her follow-up interview, Grace nodded like she'd just been given the lead role in a school play. She wasn't trembling anymore. She was angry. By the time we got back to the car, Grace was buzzing. Not with joy, God no, but with something sharper, lighter, like the weight of silence had finally been lifted off her. What happens now? She asked. I told her the truth. There'd be paperwork, a follow-up, maybe a court case, maybe protective orders. It wouldn't be easy. She nodded. Good. That one word gave me chills. That night, the phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I knew the voice. Are you insane? My mother's voice hit me like a slap. She didn't even say hello. You went to the police? You actually called the police? Over hair? She didn't wait for me to respond. You're going to ruin everything. Do you understand that? You're going to destroy this family. Is that what you want? I let her rant, let her shout, let her pour every drop of her fear and fury through the line. And then, when she finally stopped to breathe, I said, You should have thought of that before you assaulted my child. Dead silence. We didn't assault anyone. It was a haircut. No, it was control. It was humiliation. It was violence. And now, it's evidence. Another beat of silence. Then, You're not thinking clearly. You need to calm down. Tell that to the detective. I hung up, and I didn't feel guilty. Not for a second. And it wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. When my phone rang the next morning, I was already holding a cup of coffee and a grudge. It was Sabrina. CPS was at our house, she said, voice cracking. They showed up this morning, Danielle, unannounced. They wanted to see Bella's room. They asked if we had scissors lying around. I stayed silent, stirred my coffee. Let the silence speak for me. What the hell is wrong with you? She whispered. You actually went through with it. You pressed charges? No, I said. I just reported what you did. The rest? That's on you. It's hair, Danielle. There it was. Again. That same old tune. Just hair. Just fun. Just sisters. Just childhood. No, I said. It's holding down a crying child and cutting her body without consent, and filming it, and mocking her. If that's what you call parenting, I'd be worried too. She tried to switch tactics, begged me to retract the report. You're tearing the family apart, she said, voice breaking. You've made this so public. I could lose my kids. You should have thought about that, I said, before you touched mine. I hung up. No goodbye. No explanation. Just the click of a boundary locking into place. I should have known they wouldn't stop there. That afternoon, someone sent me screenshots. There they were, my parents and Sabrina, posting on Facebook, spinning their own version of the truth like it was a school talent show. It was a game! Grace said she wanted a makeover. Danielle is being unstable again. She has a history of overreacting. We love Grace. We were bonding. Bonding? Is that what we're calling it now? Bonding by force? One comment actually said, I've known Danielle for years, and she's always been obsessed with appearances. It's sad she's weaponizing her daughter like this. Oh, really? Brenda from church? That's your takeaway? I showed the post to Grace. She scrolled through the comments, her mouth tightening. They're lying, she said softly. I know. They're getting away with it. I looked at her. Not if we tell the truth. Then I paused. Would you be okay if I posted the video? She looked up at me. Not like a scared kid, but like someone who was done being made to feel small. Please, post it. So I did. No long caption. No rant. Just this. This is what they call a game. This is my 11-year-old daughter crying while they hold her down and cut her hair. She said no. They laughed. And then I attached the video. It exploded. The same people who had been calling me dramatic in the morning were tagging me with apologies by the evening. I take it back. This is horrifying. Why is that kid laughing while she's crying? This is assault. Full stop. I'd press charges too. What the hell? Even the original commenters who doubted me started deleting their replies. Funny how fast moral clarity can show up when there's footage. Grace sat next to me while we watched the view count tick up. I glanced at her. She was smiling, not a full grin, but the kind that says, they see me now. I'm not invisible anymore. 2 days later, I got a text from my dad. Hey, your rent transfer didn't come through this month. Was there an issue? I stared at it for a second. Then I typed, no issue. I'm just not paying for people who laughed while my daughter begged them to stop. A pause. Then, come on, Danielle. You're really cutting us off over a haircut? And there it was again. The deflection, the denial, the inability to call anything by its real name. Yes, I wrote back. Because it wasn't a haircut. It was an assault. And because when you had a chance to say this was wrong, you chose to lie about it on Facebook. Also, if you ever try to contact Grace again, I will report it. Another pause. Then, wow, guess money means more to you than family. I didn't reply, not because I didn't have a dozen things I wanted to say, but because I don't argue with people who confuse consequences with betrayal. Later that week, Grace and I went back to the salon. The stylist I booked was warm, gentle, and knew exactly how to handle hair that had been butchered by family drama and kitchen scissors. She didn't try to make it long again. She didn't use words like fix. Instead, she leaned down to Grace and said, let's make this yours. An hour later, Grace was looking at herself in the mirror, touching the new shape of her hair. She tilted her head and smiled. I look awesome! And you know what? She did. The following week, Grace gave her full statement at the station. She walked in like she owned the building. No tears, No hesitation. She answered every question clearly. When they asked how it made her feel, she said, like they thought I didn't matter. When they asked why she was reporting it, she said, because I do. I sat there with my hands clasped in my lap, listening to my daughter reclaim every inch of her voice. When we got to the car, I asked, "Do you ever want to see them again?" She didn't even look at me. "No, never." I nodded. "Then you won't. You get to choose who's in your life now, and who's not." A month passed. The case went through. None of them went to jail. I didn't expect they would, but it stuck. It mattered. My mother, my father, and Sabrina were all convicted of misdemeanor assault. They each got a criminal record. They each had to pay a fine. But Sabrina got the worst of it, as she should have. She was ordered to complete a full parenting course. CPS would be monitoring their household for the next year. I heard from someone that Tyler threatened to leave her. Their vacation got canceled. The stress was eating them alive. And I didn't feel bad, not even a little. Grace still doesn't want to see them. She doesn't want any of them near her. Not at school events, not at birthdays, not at all. And I listen to that every time, because I know now, respecting her choices isn't just healing, it's power. And they took enough of hers already. Not anymore. So, did I go too far? Or not nearly far enough? Some people said I overreacted, that I should have kept it in the family, that it was just hair. And maybe they'd be right. If they weren't talking about my 11-year-old being held down, humiliated, and violated by the people who were supposed to protect her. Maybe justice looked quieter to them. But to me, justice looked like my daughter walking into a salon with her head held high. Justice looked like her knowing that someone, finally, would fight for her. Still, I wonder, should I have gone further? Cut them out sooner? Dragged them in court until the ink dried on their guilt? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, raw and just a little bit satisfying, hit subscribe.